Sometimes, when the light, by Lysel Mueller. Sometimes, when the light strikes at odd angles and pulls you back into childhood, and you are passing a crumbling mansion completely hidden behind old willows, or an empty convent guarded by hemlocks and giant firs standing hip to hip, you know again that behind that wall, under the uncut hair of the willows, something secret is going on, so marvelous and dangerous that if you crawled through and saw, you would die or be happy forever. Welcome. In this video, I'm going to present stage 2 of the Eco-Soulcentric Human Developmental Wheel, as presented by Bill Plotkin in his life-giving book, Nature and the Human Soul. This is the stage that we are calling the explorer in the garden. Every stage has a task to fulfill, and the main task of this stage is for people to learn the givens of the world and to find their place in the world. And this task has two subtasks. The first one is discovering the enchantment of the natural world. And the second subtask is learning the cultural ways, the social practices, the knowledge, the values, the history, the mythology, the cosmology of one's family and of one's culture. This stage is not just a phase of childhood. It is a living landscape, a sacred terrain where the seeds of soul-rooted identity begin to germinate. Here, the child learns to dwell in the world through their body, their emotions, their imagination, and their blossoming sense of self. So we are going to explore all these elements, and I'm inviting you to be curious about all these elements, about your own developmental process, as well as hopefully we are going to learn how to support and guide and teach others into their becoming. And I'm going to start by offering a few questions for you to consider, just to feel a little bit the taste of what this stage is all about. So the questions are: consider what activities were your favorite activities in your childhood as a child. Another question here, who were your friends besides the human friends that you had in your childhood? And the last question, what were the places that caught your attention, that were drawing your presence when you were a child? Surrendering to the enchantment of the wild nature is not optional in childhood. It is essential, not only for the self-discovery and healthy maturation, but also for the very possibility of later soul initiation. In this stage, the child begins to find home in the greater world, between stones and trees, under logs and snowfalls, in the middle of a summer meadow full of wildflowers. This is home for them, and these are not just places, but they are homelands for soul. Equally important are emotions. A healthy childhood overflows with emotions, all of them: joy, sadness, fear, anger, guilt, love. And these feelings are being mirrored and witnessed by caring adults. And the very fact that the adults are mirroring and seeing and acknowledging these emotions is shaping the young self-identity. An identity and a self that later will be able to deal with the enchantments and the mysteries and challenges of the soul. So both these worlds, the world of the natural enchantment and the world of our emotions, are forms of our human nature, are forms of our wildness, and they represent the foundation of our wholeness. To be fully open to both these worlds means to be open to a life that is whole. Based on this nature-based model of human development, the child is born in the east quadrant, in the stage that we called the innocent in the nest, and is now transitioning towards the south quadrant in the stage that we are calling the explorer in the garden. The psychospiritual center of gravity shifts from the innocence and the spiritual world, which was in the nest, towards the center of gravity of family and nature, which is in the garden. There is no precise age when the stage of garden begins. We sense it not by observing the developmental milestones or achievements, but mostly by child's orientation. We sense that the center of gravity is shifting from being very drawn to spirituality and the realm of God and Goddess towards more concrete and tangible reality, that of relationships, connections, and natural phenomena. Between the nest and the garden lies a powerful threshold, and we are calling this the naming, which is the formation of a conscious self. It is a sacred turning point, the birth of the ego. In many cultures, this turning point is celebrated by rites of passage. So it might be that the child would receive a ritualistic bath, or a symbolic haircut, or new set of clothes, or even a new name. And oftentimes this new name is given by the child himself. They can be playful names or mysterious names or archetypal names, such as Otter Girl or Sky Dreamer or Beauty Maker. These names are echoing in a mythic and mysterious way something of the uniqueness of the child, something that describes them. This is a celebration of ego's emergence as a sacred achievement. In the garden, the child awakens into an enchanted world. The child is creating this world, their world, through exploration and interaction and discovery. Both nature and culture are equally fascinating. And the garden is both cultivated and wild. Cultivated because it is shaped by the culture, and it is wild because it is emerging from the depths of the earth. The world for the explorer is sometimes comforting and sometimes frightening, but always, really always fascinating and full of wonder. The main task here for the explorer is to feel that they are a full member of Earth community, that they belong also in their family as well as in the wild nature. The archetype of the explorer is wide-eyed and hungry for experience. He is asking questions, many questions about anything and everything. Questions about stars and magnets. The archetype of the explorer is wide-eyed and hungry for the experience. He is asking questions, many questions, all sorts of questions about stars and magnets, about kisses and butterflies, about God and death. Exploration is at the heart of everything that the child does. One way that the explorer expands awareness is through altered perspectives, such as spinning until becoming dizzy, or hanging upside down, or walking unfamiliar paths. These are all experiments in shifting the perspective and the consciousness that also later will be useful for other practices that lead to soul work. And yet our culture diminishes this innate curiosity of the explorer. We have educational systems that are making children to sit still in classrooms for way too many hours every single day, and afterwards giving them homework that would make them do the very same thing, stay inside and use their intellect and very little their body and their imagination. In a soul-centric society, this curiosity of the explorer and this willingness for experience would be cherished and would be encouraged by initiated adults and elders. Besides the explorer, we have another archetype here in this stage, the archetype of the orphan. Now, most of us are not literally orphans, but all of us have experienced early in our lives psychological abandonment. That moment when we are realizing that we need to stand for ourselves, emotionally, socially, physically. Even in the most loving families, this emotional abandonment is happening. It's not a failure, it's inevitable. The orphan archetype is teaching us that we must stand for ourselves. This painful split from the original innocence is teaching us discernment and resilience and the bittersweet truth of the fact that we can be both held and alone in the world. The greatest contribution that the explorer brings into the world is the gift of the wonder. There is no other time in life that brims more naturally with amazement than this particular life stage. Wonder appears in the open eyes, in the curious, loving and open eyes, in the imaginative questions, in the joyous play. And we as adults, we have the task to tend this wonder, to protect it, to cultivate it, and to be inspired by it. The explorer cannot choose their parents or siblings or even the society they live in. Those are givens that need to be explored, endured, or celebrated. The child needs to learn about their world in order to live in it. They have this natural desire for making nature and culture their home. And just by these elements being their home, they can become a full member of this earth community and a full participant of the world. When we speak about nature, we refer to the wild outer nature as well as the inner human nature that includes our body, our emotions, and our imagination. The child's bond with nature must be intimate and direct. Spontaneous play in wild places is essential. Children must be around trees and rivers and clouds and must learn from them, because in this way their true nature will be reflected by the dogs, by the cats, by the butterflies, by the wildflowers. This is how they learn who they are, by being in the wild environment, exposed to everything, that everything is teaching them who they are. This spontaneous play, this free play in the wild nature is not recreation, is initiation. It is a serious activity that children must do every single day. If not, there is the emergence of what Richard Louv called the nature deficit disorder, that leads to all sorts of challenges for children and youth and later adults. Depression, ADHD, sensory dullness, and so on. When given the chance, children naturally develop deep relationships with animals. These experiences enhance the development of their selfhood and affiliation and empathy and morality, with deep respect towards animals and humans. Nature also has plenty of harmful things, such as stinging metals or bees, poison ivy, cliffs, slippery slopes, potentially life-threatening cold or heat. All these elements represent another opportunity for the child to learn, being instructed and guided by the adults, to learn skills such as self-care, discernment, and a wide attentiveness. Thomas Berry once said that we must allow children to first love the earth before asking them to save it. So, shall we support children and our youth to love the earth, to feel at home in the earth, to show them that they belong here, that they are as wild as a deer and as wild as this flower? Many adults, participants in our programs, are telling us that they are experiencing the connection with nature as something that they have never experienced before. They see nature as if for the first time. They are noticing its fragility and its resilience and the sacred relationship between the many beings, as if a veil has been lifted from their eyes. To raise soul-centric children and youth, we need to lift this veil ourselves from our own eyes, if this veil is there and is blocking us from seeing the world as magical and enchanting and wondrous. So in the garden, the child explores the human nature through their body, which is a source of movement, of sensation, and of pleasure. Also through their imagination, which is a sacred faculty of endless possibilities, envisioning ways of being. And through their emotions, which are natural responses from their inner world to their outer world, or vice versa. Emotions that teach the child about self and about the many relationships that are happening in the world. The second subtask is cultural learning. So here the child must acquire their people's ways. How do they eat? How do they play? How do they pray? How do they grieve? How do they celebrate? Every culture has a set of principles and values, and more particularly, every family has a set of values. And those values need to be taught to the children. It's not enough to teach the family values. The values need to be modeled for the children to acquire them. History and mythology offer belonging. We need to tell the stories of our people, not the tales that are talking about conquerors and facts and figures, but the stories that are describing the ways, the unique ways our culture, our people is being fully human. Children need myth, like wild nature and dreams. Myth offers symbolic and timeless truth. It frees up the imagination and it roots the soul. Cosmology is important and matters also. The story of the universe that would place the child in the grand unfolding of the world. We need these elements to learn about who we are, and children needs to know this, all these elements in order to learn who are their people, who they belong to, culturally speaking. Without the garden, children may grow up in malls or in front of screens or imprisoned in classrooms that crush curiosity and wonder. What they learn instead is the primary socioeconomic training, meaning how to consume, how to compete, and how to be a conforming worker. This path suppresses the wonder and the imagination and even the self-worth. Being on this path is soul starvation, and the ego becomes shaped by performance and by approval. Of course, we do not want this for our culture. And so as adults, as youth workers, we must ask ourselves, what do children need? What are their essential needs for authenticity and soul? And how can we, as family, as teachers, as community, how can we meet those needs? How can we create a soul-centric life in a world that is egocentric? It's hard, but it's not impossible. There are two principles to embrace. One is to protect the children from egocentric influences, and two is to create, to build, to provide a soul-centric lifestyle. When we do this, when families do this, the culture transforms, regardless of institutions and governments and schools. And this is the next necessary step that we must take in our evolution as humans. If while listening to this presentation you notice that you haven't lived in a soul-centric way when you were 3 to 7 years old, it's never too late to re-enter the garden. It's never too late to be an explorer again, regardless of your age. Go out into the wild splendor and marvel at the beauty around. Spend time with plants, with the trees, with the water. It's there waiting for you. It has always been there waiting for you. The gift of wonder is not a phase, it's not limited to childhood. It is a practice. It is a way of being. And let us raise children and raise each other, ourselves, remembering that each and every one of us is a poem that is percolating from the dream of it. And let us remember that each and every one of us is a poem that is percolating from the depths and the dream of the earth itself. We are shaped by joy and wonder. We are carved by our wounds. We are held by the nature, by the trees and by the sky. And we are blessed over and over to begin, to continue, to end.